Hello, good evening. First thing, I have a personal message. This is not due to open source. Okay, open source is not breaking necks. I did it myself, so I apologize. So it's quite a privilege and honor, but also a bit challenging to close these two sessions because you've been in touch with lots of different point of views and different advices from different people and lots of friendly people too. So what I would like to expose now with this presentation in the next 15 minutes is some work that you maybe have heard last year was to define for the next decade, not the 2 or 3 next decade, but for the next decade, what can be the future of free software. And future not just in terms of technology, but impact on business and impact on society. And we called that 2020 FLOSS RoadMap. And the idea was also, instead of having inputs from analysts, is to take the advice from the community itself through a collaborative work based on this document. And the result was published last year during Open World Forum, and I think it has been quite well analyzed during 1 year. And this year we wanted to push a new version, a new edition, where we would challenge what we discovered last time, and this is exactly what I'm going to introduce now. So, sorry, difficulty to yeah, to do it down. Here it is. I have to sleep with that too. So I would say that according to the prediction we made, so far so good. I mean, 10 months later, we are still on road. We still can, I would say, can be proud of the work we've done all together, and the technological trends that we envision as being mainstream right now are there. I mean, such as virtualization, microblogging, social networking through with FLOSS. Plus, we also see the importance that has been confirmed of FLOSS for cloud computing. We should, I think, in the next edition, we should shorten the period for cloud computing because things are going quite fast. Nevertheless, the problem with cloud computing is still openness. What is the interoperability? How open are the platforms? And how open are the services? So far, so good. But we also see some contradictory evolutions. While I would say we find lots of good progress and penetration, we still also see some political barriers, some barriers at political level. I mean, there's still this debate about proprietary, about security versus, white box, black boxes, and things like that. That makes things quite difficult. And in this area, except some very good examples in the UK and Netherlands and in Brazil, thanks to people like Corinto and thanks also to President Lula, who is now a very talented sponsor for free software, we see some reluctance. And we ask ourselves, why governments are so reluctant to have a more, let's say, voluntary approach of FLOSS? Because we think also that it can be also a good opportunity for one's industry to have a link between technology and solidarity. So that's something that Lula specifically understood very well. And once again, congratulations to Brazil about that. On new things that we didn't put on the radar last year and that we have to put on the radar because some contributors told us it was important. It's about proprietary hardware platform, very popular things such as iPhones and stuff like that. Are they, can they favor the development of free software or not? Can they slow down the production of free application? We don't know yet, but we see that as a risk. And finally, proprietary data is also something that we have to watch quite closely, because software is not only programs, it's mainly also about data, and if data, I mean, is a deadlock, we have an issue also. About, we also question ourselves about the impact of crisis, global economic crisis. While we, on the service business, business-oriented services, on the business-based services, contrary, there is a mitigate impact. But on the other end, for, let's say, FLOSS vendors, this crisis is a tremendous opportunity, confirmed by most of the figures we have, which in fact confirm that this model is quite adequate for modern time. Now, to finish, and I appreciate also the speech from James about that, about concentration and things like that. Most of the contributors consider that the acquisition of Sun by Oracle was mainly one of the biggest events for FLOSS during those last months. Mainly because it can change the landscape. What will happen with Java? What will happen with Glassfish? It's a question a lot. European Commission has made some remarks about that. And secondly, it means also that you have less and less significant player in IT, which is always something that can drive to monopolies or oligopolies. And we have to take care about that. But more interesting than that, it brought the discussion around who's leading open source. Is there an industry player leading open source? Is there a need for that? Also, it brought discussions such as while the number of big companies are decreasing, the number of small and startups like we've seen, like with Bonitasoft, are increasing. And these startups are based around technologies which are shared through community, but also with lots of business practices, and with quite different business models, and some pure business models based on open source, just sending subscription, but also freemium or open core strategies, which are quite popular these days. So this Sun Oracle stuff was something quite interesting, because it forced people to think about what's next. Who will lead? Is that Red Hat? Is there a need like that? And it created also some confusion, and what's good with confusion is that you have to make your mind clear. And we'd like to propose you an analogy that can help to solve these issues. I mean, when we speak about governments having difficulties to adopt the model, it's maybe because also we are not very good at communication. Of course, information is circulating very, very fast. I mean, you have lots of literature, lots of information about open source. But are we sure that we share the same knowledge? Are we sure that the communication is established? Are we sure that we are using the right images and to describe what we're doing? So we would like to propose you the idea of, the next one would be better. Just think 5 minutes about this idea, about the analogy between open source and forest. Free software is like forest. If you look at forest, it's very diverse. It hosts lots of different ecosystems, lots of biodiversity. When you look at FLOSS today, it's also very diverse. It's also hosts a different business model, also things like that. And when you go to the classic question about what is the business model of open source, I would ask, what is the business model of forest? Do you measure the value of a forest counting IKEA's revenue? And what would be IKEA's revenue without the forest itself? And I think that this image is quite interesting because it helps to, let's say, structure a bit our mind and go back to something we really all share and understand. So when you speak about primary forest or growth forest, you can consider JCC or Pearl or others, the basic communities, as these forests. Cultivated forests can, example could be JBoss, something like that. Tree nurseries, you have Apache or W2 Eclipse thing. And the IKEAs of the world are quite simply there's Red Hat, Canonical, IBM, Google, etc. And this, if you look a bit more in depth, this brings the idea of the forest is creating oxygen. FLOSS is creating oxygen in the industry, bringing new companies, bringing new ideas, new practices, new way of collaborating, and things like that. So now, final question is, and about the FLOSS, open source vendors, which might look as an oxymoron. Open source vendor, somebody selling something free, is no more an oxymoron because real or trustworthy open source vendors are like organic farmers, people taking care of the nature around them to make their own business. So finally, the question we still have in mind is what are the national parks of FLOSS? What are the Yosemite parks of FLOSS? And we have a good start when you see at what people from Calypso are doing with competence centers around the world. When you see INRIA's announcement about creating Cyril, anything like that, we start to have a kind of conscience that something needs to be better managed so we can, let's say, exploit the natural resource, which is the shared knowledge we have, in a good and profitable way for lots of people. I think we will work on that. Last year we thought about ecology of software and things like that, but I think we'll work in next edition about that, and I count on you to criticize and to challenge this idea, because when you speak about forestry, there are clear business there. There are clear labelization. There are clear ways of doing things like that. And I think for free software, it should gain to be as clear as that, as clear definition of business and things like that. So finally, the conclusion, because everything. Our main conclusion for this year, if we have one recommendation, one or two push to be done is first to encourage FLOSS users to contribute. Because no doubt FLOSS is okay, I can use it freely, I cut my cost and I'm happy about that. But the main question is, why should I give back? And the answer we bring in this second edition is typically on the notion of ego altruism that you'll find in the 19th, built by Mill, which was a liberal thinker. And the idea is if you need something, and if you participate to contribute to building something, it's not for altruism, it's only for egoistical reasons. I mean, you participate to things when you're sure you can maximize the benefits for you. It's something very, very liberal, very well accepted in liberal mind. That means that if the companies or public administrations or citizens consider that free software enables them to have a better contact with the global system or to improve their system, if they want to make sure that these tools will still be available, they have to find a way to participate, not for ideology or whatever, just for themselves. And I think we need to communicate on that, because for the moment, there is a lack of understanding from the users where they can contribute. And users can contribute a lot in different aspects, even on promotions and things like that. And finally, based on all these considerations, a recommendation we will give to any public administration or government is to really consider the necessity of a FLOSS infrastructure shared as knowledge common. I mean, if you imagine the pipes or the roads and things like that, there's no doubt about that. So we're going to push on this to ask to governmental organizations and to public administration how can we do that and how can we fund that and finance that. And that's a thought that is quite common these days in different working groups I'm part of, and we'll push on that. So finally, all these ideas are available on the site 2020flossroadmap.org. It is better written than I described right now. I hope you will enjoy the reading as we enjoyed the writing. And basically, what we would appreciate is you to contribute, to challenge our findings, or to add new ideas to that. We already are something like 35 contributors to this work, and we are looking for more and more in the future. And I hope to see you next year to publish the third edition of this collaborative work. Thanks for your patience.